Hello and welcome to our Xero overview video. In this video we're going to take a look over different parts of Xero, such as the main menu, invoices, bills, payroll and more. By the end of the video you should have a good idea of the functionality Xero offers and whether or not it is right for your business. Once you've finished, if you would like to learn more about Xero, please check out the links to our Xero courses in the description below. And of course, if you got some value out of this free video, please like it or share it or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Finally, I just want to let you know to view this video at 1080p for maximum sharpness. So without wasting any more time, let's get going. Let's start off by having a look over the main menu. Xero's main menu runs along the top of the screen and gives you access to every part of Xero that you'll need to do the bookkeeping for your business. Let's start on the left hand side of the screen where there's a drop down menu, and from this drop down menu we can get access to a few crucial areas of Xero. The first one here is the files section, and in this files section we can store files directly in Xero without having to store them anywhere else. This includes files such as PDFs or images or spreadsheets or whatever else you like. There's a few different ways you can get files into this section. You can upload them by clicking on this button. You can take photos of documents by linking up your webcam and pressing this button. And you can even email files in. And as I said before, this section allows you to store files in Xero on the cloud without having to store them anywhere else. So let's go back to the main menu and have a look at the next section, which is the settings section. The settings section is divided up into a few different subsections, and when you first open your Xero account you'll need to go into these subsections and set up your business properly. For example, you'll need to go into the organization details section and add details such as the name of your business, the type of business you run such as a company, and the ABN number if you have one. And if you will be processing pay runs for your business in Xero, you'll need to go into the payroll settings section and make sure everything is set up correctly there before you do your first pay run. Likewise, if you send out sales invoices, you may need to go into the payment services section and set up accounts such as PayPal accounts or Stripe accounts so you can receive money from your customers. So that's a quick overview of the settings section, which you can find through the drop down menu here on the left. The other items that you need to be aware of in this first drop down menu are the link here to the app marketplace, where you can go if you need to buy third-party software that connects with Xero that you can use to manage things such as expenses or fixed assets or inventory, and also a link to the My Xero section, where you can go to access the demo company, to reset the demo company, or to change organizations if you're managing more than one live organization. So moving along to the next item in the main menu, which is a link to the main dashboard. If you click this link, you will be taken back to the dashboard no matter where you are in Xero. So now let's have a look at the other drop-down menus in Xero's main menu. The first one here is the business menu, and from here you can see that you can access areas of Xero to do with invoicing to your customers, bills that you need to pay, expense claims, and products and services, which is another name for inventory. On the next menu item, accounting, you can see that you can access your bank accounts, you can access certain reports, and you can go to certain advanced functions such as the place where you go to manage the chart of accounts, your fixed assets register, and also to post manual journals. The next menu item is payroll, and if you have a Xero subscription with payroll, then this item will show up for you. If you do not have payroll in your Xero subscription, this menu item won't show up in your live account, but it will still show up in the demo company. So you can still practice doing payroll in the demo company even if you don't have it in your live Xero account. And here you can see that we're provided links to all the different things that we need to do to set up and run our payroll. The next menu item is for projects. And the final drop-down menu here is for contacts. And in here you can manage the contact details of your customers and your suppliers and your contractors, and you can also create groups of customers that you can use to bulk send invoices. The final part of Xero's main menu are these icons off to the right. The first icon here, which is a plus symbol, just gives you quick links to certain things that you might use quite a bit when you're doing the bookkeeping for your business, such as creating invoices or bills, or going in and managing your contacts, doing quotes or purchase orders, or posting manual journals. And there's also links there to create spend money, receive money, and transfer money transactions. The next button along here is a search button that you can use to search for anything in Xero. And you can see here that it's not available when you're in the demo company, but it will be available in your live account. So if you need to search for anything in your live Xero file for your business, you can click on this magnifying glass here. The next icon here is a link to the notifications area, and this is the area where you will receive notifications from Xero if there's anything that they need to notify you about. And the second last icon here is to get to the help section. So if there's something you need help on, if you want to try and find an article on it, you can type some keywords into here, and you can see if you can find an article on it. If not, you can access the help center down here. There's a link, and if you're really stuck, there's a link here to find a Xero advisor. And the final icon on the main menu just gives you a link to your profile and your account, and also a way to log out. So that was a quick overview of Xero's main menu and how to access all the different parts of Xero from the main menu. So now let's have a look at some of those parts in a bit more depth. Okay, now let's have a look over the invoicing section of Xero. To get there, you just need to go to the business drop-down menu, and there you can see the top 3 menu items relate to invoices. There's invoices, quotes, and the sales overview screen. Let's go to the sales overview screen first. And as the name suggests, this screen gives us an overview of all the sales invoices that we have created and either sent out to the customers or are still waiting to be sent out. So if we start from the top of the screen, we can see there's a few buttons there. This first button you can click on to create invoices, quotes, or repeating invoices or credit notes. The second button you can press if you want to send statements to your customers for their outstanding invoices, to let them know just in one statement all the invoices that they've got outstanding with you. There's also a button here to import invoices, and over on the right there's a search button where you can search for invoices or quotes by the number or the reference number or the customer's name or anything else. So I'll just close that. The next part of the screen is a panel that shows the various stages of invoices and how many invoices there are at those stages. So the first panel here you can see is for draft invoices, and we can see here in the demo company there are 4 draft invoices worth a total of $2,200. The next panel along tells us that there is 1 invoice that's awaiting approval from someone who is allowed to approve invoices. The next panel shows us that there's $16,000 worth of invoices that we're waiting for customers to pay us for, and there's 10 invoices in total, and of that 10, 3 of them are overdue to a value of just over $7,000. You can click through to the invoices in these sections from these panels. So if I click on the draft panel, for example, we're taken to a screen where you can see all 4 of the draft invoices that total $2,200, and you can also see that a lot of the buttons and links on this screen are similar to the sales overview screen. So let's go back to the sales overview screen and continue to have a look at the sections on this screen. So the next section down is a little chart that just shows you the timing of money that you're expecting to come in, which is based on the invoice due dates, and you can see there's quite a lot there in December. And then to the right of that, there's another chart showing you the customers that owe the most. So we've got Ridgeway University there owing us more than any other customer. And the final section on this screen is for quotes. There are no quotes created here in the demo company, so I can't really show you around that, but you may use quotes in your business, and if you do, then you can access information on those quotes via those panels down the bottom of the screen there. The next thing I want to do is quickly show you how to create an invoice. So you can do it by clicking on the button here and creating an invoice from here like we saw before, but instead of doing it from here, I'll show you how to do it from the main invoices screen, which is basically the same way anyway. So let's just go up to the invoices screen through the business menu there, and this is the main invoices screen, and from here you can see this is a list of all the invoices. So along here there's different panels that you can click on to see the invoices that are at various stages along the way, just like I showed you before on the sales page. So this panel shows you all of the invoices no matter what stage they're at, and then you can click on these panels to look at draft invoices, awaiting approval invoices, awaiting payment invoices, invoices that are paid, and also repeating invoices. So from here, let's have a look at how to create a new invoice, and to do that we just click on the button at the top of the screen here that's similar to the button on the other screen that we looked at before, and click on new invoice, and this takes us to the new invoice screen that we can use to create an invoice. So let's just do a very quick example. So in the first panel here, we just need to type in the customer's name. So if we just type in A, it'll bring up all the customers that start with A. So we'll choose ABC Furniture. This is the date that we're creating in the invoice. We just need to select a due date as well, so let's do in 2 weeks time. The next box is for an invoice number, which has been automatically generated by Xero, which is fine. And then we can choose different ways of branding our invoices, and there are a few different branding templates set up in Xero, so we'll just leave it on the standard one for now. And if we click on preview, we'll be able to see the invoice at any stage. So we won't do that yet because we haven't finished creating it. And this button here, you can click on this button if you want to upload files to attach to this invoice, and the files will be saved in Xero. So if there's anything that you want to remain with the invoice forever, you can simply upload it through this button. So let's just quickly finish creating our invoice, and we'll do it for services rendered, the quantity of 1, and then we'll just put a unit price of $100 in there. There's no discount percentage. You can see Xero has defaulted to put it in the general ledger code sales. Sales has a default tax rate of 10% GST on income. We're not going to assign it to any region. So there's the total amount of $100 at the end there. And up here you get to choose whether you want the amount to be inclusive or exclusive of tax, or if there's no tax. At the moment you can see it's inclusive of tax, which means that when we put $100 in, that includes GST. So it calculates the GST down the bottom as 1/11 of the $100. If we change that to exclusive, we're saying that the $100 does not include GST. So now Xero calculates the GST on top of the $100, and the total invoice is now $110. So let's put it back to tax inclusive. And then from here, all you need to do is decide what to do next. So if you're an invoice approver, you can go straight into approving the invoice by clicking on this button. Or if you're not an invoice approver, or if you want to save it as a draft for any other reason, you can just click on the save button, or you can click on the drop down here and choose any one of those options down here. So let's just approve the invoice. And you can see there that we get a success message at the top saying that our invoice has been approved for $100. So let's go back to the invoices screen and see where it is. So I'll just click on Invoices. So we're back on the Invoices screen. And because we approved the invoice, it's in this awaiting payment section. And there it is at the top, ABC Furniture for $100. We didn't email the invoice to the client, so it's not marked as sent like these invoices down here. If we did email it to the client, then that would say sent. If you do want to email an invoice to a client, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. The first way is from this screen. You can just tick on the invoice here and then click on the email button, and it brings up a little send invoice box where you can put in the email addresses. You can put in more than one address there if you like. And then there's just a normal subject line and message area for the email. So I won't send it from here because this is the demo company. And you can also include files as attachments, and you can include a PDF copy of the invoice with the email. So I'll just cancel out of there. I'll just show you, you can also print the invoice from here after you've ticked it, and that will download a PDF version of the invoice in case you want to email it some other way or print it out. And the other way you can do both of those things is if you go into the invoice itself, and you can see there's an email button up here and a print PDF button, and they do exactly the same things as you could do from the other screen. So that's a basic overview of invoicing in Xero. Okay, now let's have a look at the purchasing and bills section of Xero. So to get there, we just go to the business drop-down menu, and these three items in the middle are for purchases and for bills that we need to pay. So the first one we'll have a look at is the purchases overview. And this is a screen that just shows us a summary of the current billing situation for the demo company. So if we start from the top, we can see there's a few buttons here. The main one is this new button that you can click to create a new bill, a new one-time bill that is. You can also create repeating bills, you can create credit notes, and you can create purchase orders. Over on the right here, there's also a search box. So if you need to search for a bill by reference number or a contact name or something else, you can use this search box. Next, we have this group of panels here that shows the timeline of the current bills that are sitting in the demo company. And you can see on this first panel here that we have one draft invoice for $115.20 that's been created. And then as we move along, there's one that's awaiting approval, and there's 12 that are approved and awaiting payment. And of those that are awaiting payment, 8 of them are overdue to a value of $5,600. And as we continue to move further down the screen, we can see that there's a graph here that just shows some dates and the amounts of bills that are due on those dates. So we can actually adjust that chart by just moving this along so we can see further into the future. And the way from the bills they have set up in the demo company here, you can see that there's nothing past due from the 24th there. If we slide along further into the future, there's nothing there, so you can adjust that if you like. And then down the bottom here, we have some similar panels to the bills section. These are for purchase orders. So if you use purchase orders in your business, you can have a look here on the purchases overview screen and see what the story is at the moment. So there's one draft purchase order, there's none that are awaiting approval, and there's 5 that are approved. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to create a one-off bill in Xero. You can do it from this screen if you click on the new bill button up here, but I'll show you that you can also do it from the bill screen. So this is the main billing screen where you can see all of the bills that are in the system, whether they're awaiting payment or draft or paid, whatever else. There's tabs along the top here that you can click on to see the bills that are in their various stages, just like you could from that main purchaser screen. So if we have a look at awaiting payment, we can see all the bills that have been approved and still haven't been paid. So let's go and create another one by clicking on the new bill button at the top here. So let's just create a bill for purchasing some office supplies. So I'll type in office here to bring up one of the contacts that we've already got in the system, and we'll choose the due date. You can put a reference number in if you like, and you can also attach files to this bill if you have anything that you might need to reference later on for this bill. So it could be a purchase order, or it could be an Excel spreadsheet, or an email, or anything else. So let's just put in the description of supplies for the office, and we'll say that we purchased 10 and they were $50 each, and they should go to the printing and stationery account. And you can see that that's automatically set up to have GST on expenses, which will be at a rate of 10%. So because we have this set to tax exclusive, the amount that we've got in here as the total is exclusive of GST. So Xero has added 10% GST onto it to make the total bill $550. If we change that to tax inclusive, it means that this amount is already inclusive of GST. So Xero will calculate 10% of that total, being 1/11, which is $45.45. So you can see the total bill is still $500. So that's the difference between the two. There's also no tax in there, but that's not relevant to this because stationery does attract GST. So once you've got it set up, you can save it as a draft by clicking on the save button over here, or you can approve it for payment right away if you are authorized to do that. So let's click on approve, and Xero has given us a success message at the top to say that our bill is approved. If you do need to, you can click on this button here to print a copy of the bill as a PDF. And if you've made a mistake, you can either void the bill or you can just edit the bill. So if you needed to change the amounts or the account code or something else, you can click on edit and go in and make changes. But we're happy with this bill, so let's go back to our billing screen, and here you can see that we're in the tab for bills that have been approved and are awaiting payment. And here's our bill at the top for our office supplies for $550. So that's how you successfully create a bill in Xero. So that's a one-off bill. If you have bills that you pay regularly, you can create repeating bills in Xero to save you from having to create the same bill over and over again, say monthly. So to do that, you just go up here and you just click on new repeating bill, and you can create a bill for your phone bill or your rent or whatever you like. But let's just have a quick look at any repeating bills that are already set up in the demo company. So we'll click on the repeating tab, and here we can see that there are some repeating bills set up. So this first one here is for the monthly bill to pay Xero for using the software. So if we click into that, we can see that all the relevant details are in, the description and the amount and the GL code. And we can see at the top here that the bill repeats every month, and when the system creates it, it goes straight into the approved bucket, so it doesn't need to be approved by anyone. It's already automatically approved, and it will show up in that approved tab ready for payment. So let's just go back and have a look at another one. So we'll just cancel out of here, and you can see what I mean here, that first bill is auto approved. If we have a look at another one that's saved as draft, so this particular repeating bill here, so this is for the monthly ADSL or internet connection, and you can see that instead of this one being automatically approved when Xero creates it, it actually saves it as a draft instead. So it still needs to be approved by someone. It'll end up in the drafts tab. So if we cancel out of there and go back to this main page, so that Xero bill will automatically show up here in this tab every month, and the bill for the ADSL will automatically show up in this drafts tab every month, and then someone will have to go and approve it. So that's how you manage repeating bills in Xero. And that's also the end of our look at the purchases section of Xero. So let's move on now to the next section. Okay, let's have a look now at the expense claims section of Xero. To get there, just click on Business in the main menu and go to Expense Claims. So the first thing we'll do is just have a quick look at some of the settings. So if you click on this cog up here, it'll take you to the expense settings section. And you can see here in the General tab, there's an option here to enable receipt analyzing. So if you click that, you will allow Xero to analyze photos that you or your employees take of receipts for their expense claims, and then the system will try to create an expense claim automatically so that you don't have to type in all the information. So we'll just untick that again, and then in the next few tabs you can control who the users are, you know, which of your employees are allowed to submit expense claims, and thirdly, you can control which general ledger accounts people are allowed to send expense claims to. So they won't all be appropriate. So for example, no one would, you know, should be allowed to submit an expense claim to the depreciation account or cost of goods sold account. So you can just tick the general ledger codes down here that you feel are appropriate, such as entertainment and advertising, etc. So back to the expense claims main screen here, you can see that there are various stages of expense claims. So in this incomplete section here, you can see that that it contains the expense claims that are in the draft stage still, so they haven't been submitted and they haven't been approved. If they have been submitted but are not yet approved, they show up down here in the in review section with the label submitted, and then if they have been approved, the label approved is applied, and they also Xero also will create a bill for that particular expense claim, so you can pay the person the money that you owe them. So that's an overview of expense claims in Xero. Let's move on now to the products and services section. The next section we'll have a look at is the products and services section of Xero, which is also the inventory section. So to get there, just go to the business menu and products and services. And here we can see that there are a few different kinds of products and services. So if we have a look here, we can see there's some golf balls and there's some t-shirts, and those are all products that have a buying price or a cost price and a sale price with a margin in the middle. So they're physical products. And there's also some services set up here. So services such as development work with hourly rates and day rates, and there's some more down here for project management and some half-day training and desktop network support. So some of these items here are products and some of them are services. They're not all physical inventory. So you can create new items by clicking on this new item button, and you can also import and export some of the data. Now, if you run a business where you do have inventory, you may find Xero's products and services section a little bit basic. So if you need something more sophisticated, such as the third-party add-on, you can go to this main menu and go to the app marketplace and see if you can find something more sophisticated and more appropriate for your business. And I'll just finish off by showing you what these item codes can be used for, particularly for services. So you can see here there's a dev-D item code here. So if we do some development work for a client and we want to invoice them, we can go to the invoicing section. We can create a new invoice, and then when we go to fill in the line items, we can click on this item here, click on the drop down, and you can see here this is where the products and services show up. So if we click on dev-D that we were looking at before, that will automatically populate our invoice with all the information that was set up in the products and services section. So even though the products and services section is probably a little basic for physical inventory such as golf balls and t-shirts, it is pretty handy if you have particular services that you invoice people for over and over again. You can just set up the services here. So that was our overview of products and services and inventory in Xero. Let's have a look now at bank accounts. Okay, now let's have a look at one of the more important parts of Xero, which is how to manage your bank accounts. So no matter what kind of business you've got, you're likely to have at least one bank account or credit card or PayPal account or whatever it may be, and they're all controlled from the bank accounts section. So on the main dashboard here, you can see the two bank accounts that are set up in the demo company. There are a couple of panels here to show you the information on those bank accounts, and you can also see that you can click into those bank accounts by clicking on the names of them. If you want to reconcile this main account, you can click on the button, and you can also access a few things by clicking on the three buttons on the right hand side here. But let's go into the bank accounts from the main menu. So you just need to click on accounting and bank accounts, and here you can see the main bank account screen. And the reason I've gone in here instead of from the main dashboard is that there are some extra buttons at the top here that allow you to do a few things, such as adding a new bank account, which you'll have to do when you first set up your business on Xero. So if we click on that, you can see here that there's a process you need to go through to set up a bank account. So here in Australia, it's brought up some of the main banks here. So let's click on ANZ. Then you go to the next screen where you type in your account name and the account type. So let's just say it's an everyday bank account, and we'll just call it business bank account, business account 2. And then you can type in the BSB and account number. So I'll just put some pretend numbers in there. And if we go to continue, you can see we have a new bank account down here. Now, we haven't actually got any transactions in that account because we only just set it up. So you can click on here to import a bank statement, and that's a manual import process. So you'll need to download transactions from your online banking, put them into the template that Xero provides through the process, and then import them to get the transactions in here. Normally what you'd like to do though is set up automatic importing, and that's one of the main benefits of using Xero. So every day your bank transactions will be automatically imported into the bank accounts that you've got set up in Xero. I can't show you how that works in the demo company because it's not activated in the demo company, but if you can get that set up for your bank accounts, it's a real time saver. So let's just have a look at the two bank accounts that Xero has set up in the demo company here. And the first thing you'll probably notice is that the main business bank account has this button here saying that there's 28 items to reconcile, while the other bank account says that it's reconciled. So if we go into this one and we look on the Reconcile tab, we can see that there's no transactions to reconcile, and that the balance in Xero is the same as the balance in the online banking facility. So if we go back to the main bank account screen, and now we go into the business bank account, so we can either click on this button here to go straight to the Reconcile tab, or we can click through the same way we did the other account and then click on the Reconcile tab. And here you can see that there are 28 items that need to be reconciled. So on the left hand side we have the bank statement lines, and these are the transactions that are imported from your bank account, whether you manually uploaded them or whether they came through the automatic feed system that you hopefully can set up for your bank accounts. And then on the right hand side we have transactions in Xero, and the idea is that every single bank account item needs to match to a transaction in Xero. So whether that's a sales invoice or a bill or an expense payment to a client or something else, it needs to match, and then you can reconcile it. Xero will always try to automatically match your bank transactions with invoices and bills, etc., that you already have set up in Xero, and when that happens it shows up as a match just like it has here, and this OK button will appear in the middle, so you can see the button is there for a few of the transactions that have matched and it's not there for others. So there's no matching general ledger transaction for this $15.75 spend at the bakery. Once Xero does match these things together, or you do it yourself, and the OK button shows up, all you need to do is click on it and that item is reconciled. So you can do that one as well, and as you scroll down you can see there's more of them. So for bank account transactions that come through on your feed that do not have a matching transaction in Xero, you need to create them. So you can do that manually by using this create tab here. So if you like, you can just create a spend money transaction for this. So we could say it's the Cooper Street Bakery, and we can say that that might go to, let's say, entertainment, and we can put a description in if we like, but we won't do it here. And you can see now that we've created a transaction, so the OK button appears, and if we click OK, then that item will be reconciled in our accounts. It will disappear from here. So likewise, we've got some money coming in here for $2,000, and we can create some sort of receive money transaction because it looks like it's not matching to a sales invoice. And the other thing you can do is to create bank rules, and the rules will look for certain information in your bank transactions and then try and create a general ledger transaction automatically. So you can have a look at the bank rules by going to Manage Account, Bank Rules, and we can see here that there's only one of them set up here in the demo company in this particular bank account called 7-Eleven, and it's a spend money rule. And what that's going to do is it's going to look for a payee that contains the word 11, and it will try and match bank account transactions and then create a general ledger transaction automatically. So if we go back to our bank feed and just go back to bank accounts, back into the business bank account and into the reconciliation tab, you can see here there's a transaction that does actually contain the word 11 for 7-Eleven, and Xero has automatically created a general ledger transaction to match it to. So we can just straight away click on OK, and that's reconciled. So that's just another way that Xero tries to help you to automatically reconcile transactions, and you can create as many bank rules as you like for whatever transactions you like. So for example, we could create a rule for Central City parking, and then every time Xero spots Central City parking, coming through your bank feed, it will try to create a general ledger transaction for you. Then the OK button will show up, and then you can just go through and click OK, and it's reconciled. So let's just go back up to the top here and have a look at some of these other tabs. We can see there's a cash coding tab, and from here you can manually code the transactions that have come through on the bank feed to general ledger accounts, and it can be a faster way of doing it than using the reconcile tab. So it's just a matter of preference really as to which way you want to do it. The next tab just shows the bank statement transactions, and you can see here that some of them are unreconciled and some of them have been reconciled. There's also one that's been deleted there. And then finally the account transactions tab, which shows you transactions in Xero's general ledger. So that includes things like invoices and bills that have been set up. And again, you can see some of them have been reconciled to bank account transactions and some of them are still unreconciled. So that's a little overview of how to reconcile a bank account in Xero. If we go back to the main bank account screen, I'll just point out that if you have other accounts such as credit cards or PayPal accounts or Stripe accounts or anything like that, you still manage them from this section here. So you just go into add bank account, and if for example it's a PayPal account, you can just type in PayPal and then go through the process of adding the PayPal account through here. So that's it for bank accounts. Let's move on now to the next section. Let's have a quick look now at some of the reporting that you can do in Xero. So if you click on the accounting menu, you can see that there is a report section, and this is the favorites section. So these particular reports have been favorited, and they include the business activity statement and the balance sheet, cash flow and profit and loss. So you can go directly to those reports from here because they're favorited. If you want to go and look at a different report, you just click on reports, and from here you can go into any one of Xero's reports, and you can see the reports that have been favorited have a little star next to them that's been selected. So if we wanted to take the balance sheet off that menu, we just click on the star, and now you can see that the balance sheet no longer appears there. So we can put that back, and there it is again. So that's how you favorite and unfavorite a report for the menu. And other than that, really, you can just have a look through and see what kind of reports are here and what you may need in your business. So you might need to expand it out a little bit, and you can see there's financial reports and sales and purchases, inventory reports. There's lots of payroll reports as well, and then some reports for taxation and accounting and fixed assets. So that was just a little overview of the reporting section in Xero. Let's move along to the next section. Okay, let's have a look now at some of the advanced accounting tools and settings in Xero. So to get there, we just go to the accounting menu, and you can see down the bottom here, there's a subsection of the menu with a few quick links to some of the advanced accounting areas. So you can use those links, or you can just click on advanced up here, and that will bring up all of the advanced features and the advanced settings just on the one screen. So just going down the list of advanced features here, and we won't look at them all, you can see there's a tool here to find and recode transactions if you've made a mistake and you need to do that. There's a section where you can go to post manual journals to the general ledger. So I'll just click in here and have a look, and you can see if we have a look at the list of all journals, there's a few in here in the demo company, one of which has been posted, a few of which are still drafts, and one has been voided. So if you want to create a new journal, you just click on the new journal button, and Xero always gives you a message recommending that an accountant or a bookkeeper create journals unless you have experience managing a general ledger. And then you can simply go ahead and create the journal down here. Xero will tell you if it doesn't balance. So if we go back out here and have a look at some of the draft journals, I believe this one here doesn't balance. It's $108 out because of the GST. So you won't be able to post that one until it balances. So when you do get a journal to balance, and it's either saved as a draft or you're just creating it at the time, you can either save it as a draft or you can just post it right away and it'll just post straight into the general ledger. So that's a little bit about manual journals. So if we go back to the advanced section, next on the list is fixed assets. So if we go into the fixed assets section, you can see, similar to a lot of the other places in Xero, such as invoicing and bills, there's you can save drafts and then you can register them when they're ready to be registered. So if we just have a little bit of a look here at one of the draft fixed assets, and you can see that we've purchased some desks and chairs and furniture for the office, and it's being coded to office equipment, and there's a purchase price and an asset number, etc. You can also put some other details in here, such as a description, a depreciation start date, choose the depreciation method by rate or by effective life, and then when you're ready you can just click on the register button and then it will show up in the registered assets list. So there's a few here that are already registered. So if we go into this one, we can just see the details of it. It's an LCD TV, 60-inch TV, diminishing value depreciation at 40%, and we have a look here, summary of the value. We can see it's still in at its book value of $6,500. So once you've got a couple of registered assets, or even just one, at some point you will run your depreciation, whether you do it monthly or if you just do one run at year end. You just click on this button and it will calculate and run the depreciation for you. And of course, if you want to add a new asset, you can do it this way. And there's a few other ways you can do it as well, but I won't show you those right now. But you can just press this button to create a new fixed asset. So if we just go back into the advanced section while we're on the topic of fixed assets, there's also under advanced settings, there's some fixed asset settings that you'll need to set up before you actually register any assets. So if we just have a quick look in there, and we can see that what we need to do is create the asset types for a start. So you might remember we just had a look at one that was coded to office equipment, so that's already been set up here in the demo company, and the general ledger accounts that the asset goes to and the accumulated depreciation goes to, and the depreciation expense goes to. It's all been set up, and there's a default depreciation method here as well. So you can set up asset types, you can set up motor vehicles or heavy equipment, whatever you like in here, and then there's a few GL accounts that you can select here if you're going to dispose of an asset, and there's some tax reporting settings as well that you can set up to do with pooling. So you need to set those up before you start adding fixed assets. So that's what I wanted to show you on the advanced features side. So on the advanced settings side, we've already looked at the fixed asset settings, but there's also some other settings that you need to go through when you're first setting yourself up in Xero. One of those is the financial settings. So obviously in Australia we've got GST, and you'll need to go through and set up your GST method and put some other details in here as well, such as when you calculate your GST and pay it. Same with your PAYG withheld and your PAYG income. And there's a few tax defaults here that you can tinker with as well, and lock dates for if you need to lock your accounts for posting to ensure that people no longer post to them once you're finished with particular periods. It's all in here. So the next one down is another really important one, which is the chart of accounts. So different businesses will have different charts of accounts. So you'll need to set one up that's appropriate for your business, but it's all in here. The assets and liabilities, etc. Each one has a different tab, and you can add You can add GL codes, and you can delete them if you haven't used them. If you have used them, you may be able to archive them instead by just ticking there and clicking on the right button. So if we just have a look at when you add an account, you can see that there's a few things you need to fill in. Obviously the account type, so if it's a current asset, pick a unique code, give it a name, a description, and then you'll need to choose the way that it has tax calculated on it or not. So we won't set one up. I was just showing you where to go to do that. So that's a bit about the chart of accounts, except I should also point out that you can import a chart of accounts if you have one set up in another system and you want to bring it over to Xero. You can import it. And if we have a quick look at the tax rates, we can see here that there's some basic GST tax rates set up for the Australian version of Xero, with GST on expenses and income set at 10%, and all these other codes it's 0%. If you need more tax rates, you can click on change to advanced tax rates here, and I'll just click on it, and you can see now that the list of tax rates we've got is much longer, and particularly there's a few additional tax codes that have come through for things like exports and capital imports, etc. So depending on what type of business you run, you may or may not need to use those. So let's just go back to the advanced settings section and have a look at tracking categories. Now, tracking categories is basically Xero's version of cost centers or profit centers. So you can set up different categories, and you can have different categories within the categories. So this one, you can see here in the demo company, there's a region category set up, and there's east, north, south, and west coast. And I'll just quickly show you one way that you can use those. If we go into invoices, for example, and we just have a look at this first invoice here. If we edit the invoice, and you can see here there's a region column with nothing selected, but we can assign it to one of those categories that we saw before. So we could assign this to east side, and the next line, for example, could be assigned to the north side. We can update that so it saves. And all that means is that when you go to do some reporting later on, you can report by region, because you've got it set up as a tracking category and you've used it here. So yeah, so that's how tracking categories are a lot like cost centers and profit centers in Xero. And the final thing to show you here is conversion balances. And this is the place you go to if you're converting over from a different accounting package to Xero. You can put conversion balances in for all your general ledger codes. So you may not need to do it for the profit and loss codes if you're converting at a particular date, such as the first day of the financial year, because they will all be Xero anyway. But you'll certainly need to put conversion balances in for things like your bank accounts, because I'm sure they'll have a balance when you convert your accounting over to Xero. So that's where you go to do that. So that's a little overview of the advanced accounting section. And just to finish off, like I showed you before, some of these settings, etc., are down here on the drop down menu. If you want to put quick links to any of the others on there, you just need to favorite them, and there now you can see history and notes. So that's it for advanced accounting. Let's have a look now through the payroll section. Let's have a look at payroll in Xero now. If you're going to run payroll in your business, then before you add any employees or do any pay runs, you'll need to set up the payroll first. So let's have a look at where to go to do that. If we go to the main menu here and click on settings, and then click on payroll settings, we can see here that there are a few tabs that we need to go along to set up certain things for our payroll. So this has of course already been done in the demo company, so we can just have a really quick look through it. And on the first tab here, you can see that you can set up the accounts, the general ledger accounts that relate to payroll, such as where the bank account that the money is going to be paid out of, and the general ledger accounts for the PAYG liability and the superannuation liability and the wages expense and a few other things as well. You can also set up some payroll tracking, which you can do by region, because we have that tracking category already set up here in Xero, but we won't go into that too much here because it is optional. It's not something you have to do. And then there's a few payslip options down the bottom here as to whether you want to show the salary and the employment basis and put a logo on it. So once you've set that up, you'll need to go through and set up your payroll calendars. So you may have more than one payroll calendar in your business. There might be people that you pay fortnightly. There might be people that you pay weekly. You can also set up other pay calendars. If we click on the add button here, you can see that you can set up twice monthly, 4 weekly, monthly or quarterly as well. So you can set up basically whatever you need for your business. And here in the demo company, they've already got fortnightly and weekly set up. And if we have a look into the settings here, it just shows you a couple of things about when the next payment is to be made, and whether you want it to be your default pay calendar. So we can just cancel out of there. The next thing you need to do is set up holidays. So in Australia, you can set them up by state if you like. So you can set up the public holidays for things like Christmas and Easter and Labor Day and that sort of thing by state, because different states have different public holidays. And when you add employees, you can select which group of holidays is going to be assigned to those employees. So that's relevant if you have employees in different states. The next tab is for pay items, and here you can see that there's already quite a lot of them set up. So one of the main ones here is an earnings pay item for ordinary hours, which would be, you would think, what most people would have on their pay slip every time they get paid. But there's also other things such as termination payments for leaving, overtime hours, redundancy, etc. There's deductions as well. So people might have deductions for fringe benefits tax or lease payments or anything else. There's union fees, which are quite common. There's reimbursements as well, if you need to reimburse staff for travel or other things that they've spent money on in the business. And one of the most important ones is leave. And here, of course, you have annual leave, which for a full-timer, you can see it's been set up to 152 hours a year. If we click into that, you can see it's units hours, normal entitlement is 152 hours a year. And this is selected to show the balance on each of the pay slips. So whatever balance the employee has left will show up on the pay slip. So here you can set up all your different leave types, like carers leave or sick leave, whatever you want to call it, parental leave, etc. It's all here. And for superannuation, this is where you go to actually set up the superannuation funds. So no doubt, if you've got a whole lot of employees, many of them will have different superannuation funds, and this is where you need to go to add them. You just click on this add superannuation fund here, and with the type you can choose whether it's regulated or self-managed, because some people have self-managed superannuation funds. So you'll need some extra details like the ABN and the ESA, etc., and the bank account. So there's no self-managed super funds set up here in the demo company, just a few regulated funds. So those are the payroll settings that you need to go through and set up before you do any pay runs for your business. And once it's all set up, then you can start doing pay runs as long as you've added employees. So I'll just show you all the different screens now that you need to go to process pay runs. So if we go to the payroll menu, and we can have a look at this overview screen, which just gives you a bit of a snapshot as to what's happening at the moment. So you may or may not really use this screen. There's a draft pay run set up, there's some leave to approve, and there's no timesheets to approve. And you can access all this information in the other screens anyway. So if we go to employees, this is where you'll go to set up your employees. You just simply click on add employee, and you can see in the demo company here, there's half a dozen employees already set up. And on the history tab here, this is where the employees will show up if they're no longer working for your company, if they have a termination date. So if we go back here and we have a look at one of the employees that's been set up, this is what you'll need to do for each employee that you've set up. You'll need to go along each of these tabs and fill in all the relevant information. So you can see here, this is just basic information such as their name and phone number, etc. In employment, there's a few key pieces of information you'll need to put in, such as their start date, what payroll calendar they belong to, and you might remember we just saw there was a weekly one and a fortnightly one, and there's employee groups as well, which you may or may not use. The holiday groups are what I was talking about before when I was saying in Australia you would probably set those up by state. So that could be a holiday group of Queensland if the employee is based in Queensland. And then their ordinary hours rate. Here you can see they picked the pay item of ordinary hours that I showed you before. And then there's certain authorizations here as well, which for most employees will be unticked. This is also the screen where you will choose what superannuation fund the employee belongs to. So you can just click on this add fund button here, and you might remember we just saw that there were two that were set up. So you just choose it here, and then usually people have an employee number with their superannuation fund that you'll need to add in here. So that's the employment tab. The taxes tab is also another important one. So this is a screen where you can submit the employee's tax details straight to the ATO instead of doing it the old paper-based way. So if you get the signed tax declaration off the employee, you can put their tax file number in here, and you can put their employment basis in, whether they're an Australian resident, and they will put on their form whether they're claiming the tax-free threshold, whether they have a HEX or HELP debt, etc. And then when it's all correct, this button down here that says File Now, this will be colored green, and you just click on the button and it will ask you if you want to send the details straight to the Australian Taxation Office instead of having to mail the paper form. So that's pretty handy. So this is disabled in the demo company, which is why it's not coming up. The next tab is for leave, and no doubt all of your employees will be entitled to some kind of leave. So there's a little history here of leave that they've requested, whether it's been rejected, approved, or requested and it hasn't been looked at yet. But when you first set up an employee, this section here will have nothing in it. So you need to assign leave types by clicking on that button. And sometimes there's also an option there to just assign default leave types. So everybody might be entitled to just annual leave and personal and carers leave, and you can just click on the button and it just comes straight up, which is very handy. The next tab is for their bank account, and this is where you go just to put in their bank account details for where you're going to pay their wages to. So that's pretty straightforward. The pay slips tab just gives you a history of the employee's pay slips if you need to get in there and access them and have a look. If you click on these buttons here, they download as PDFs. You can't actually open them on the screen. And the pay template tab, this is the template, or the calculation, if you like, of the employee's standard pay, which I'll show you this when we go and have a look at pay runs. So you can see here that LeBron James has some ordinary hours, 38 hours a week, and he has a union fees deduction, and there's some superannuation down here as well. And then the opening balances tab, this is really only relevant in certain situations. So particularly if you're converting over from another piece of accounting software, you might need to put in some opening balances for the employee for these various things here. And then there is a notes tab as well, and you can see there's no notes there, but you can make notes if you need to. And if we just go back to we'll go back to the details tab, and you can see here there's a little options box at the top. If the employee has left the company or is leaving the company, you can set a termination date. If they've just started in the company and you've just set them up here, you can send them an invitation to the payroll section of Xero, and that will give them access to certain things such as being able to apply for leave. And another thing to note is that if you hover over these two bits here, the information, it's quite sensitive information, so it's hidden on the screen. So if anybody's walking past your screen, they can't see the information such as the salary, but if you hover over it shows up there. So that's the employee section of Xero, and there is another way I showed you before how you can click on that button to invite new employees to payroll. You can also do it here by ticking that box and clicking on invite to my payroll, and like I said before, that will allow them to go in and do things like applying for leave. So the next item down is pay employees, and that's where you'll go to process pay runs, but we'll just go to leave first and have a look in here. And because we're set up as someone who can review leave, you can see we've got these items of leave that employees have applied for and they're up for review. So there's a bit of annual leave there. If you want to approve it, you can click approve. If you want to have a look at it, you can click in here and click in edit. So there might be something that you need to change in here, and then you can reject it or approve it, and you can also reject it here if for some reason you need to reject it. Upcoming, these are leave items that have already been approved and that will go into one of the future pay runs. And you can also have a look at the history here on this tab, and you can see all of the items in history there have been rejected. So that's a little overview of the leave section. If you want to apply for leave for yourself, you can click on the new button and you can put your own name in here. And if you've got permission to do so, you can also put in leave requests for other staff as well. So the timesheet section, not all companies will use this. You might not use it in your business, but this is where you can go to upload timesheets for staff, which is particularly relevant for casual staff. And then there's a process to go through to add timesheets and to approve them. And once they're approved, they can go into the pay runs. Now this last item here, superannuation, this is something that is disabled in the demo company, but in your live account, it may be enabled if you have payroll. And so you'll see a different screen when you go into here, and what this will allow you to do is to pay your superannuation straight from Xero through a clearinghouse that Xero are affiliated with. So that will save you from having to do it another way, such as through the ATO's business portal. So that's a pretty handy thing to know if you want a nice simple way to pay your employees superannuation. So now that we've looked at all that, let's have a look at how you actually pay your employees. So we'll go into here, and we can see that there's a pay run history here of the weekly and fortnightly pays that have gone through lately. And you can see there's also a draft pay run. So a draft pay run is one that's already been set up, but we haven't actually processed the pay run yet or paid anybody. And you can only have one draft pay run per calendar, so we can't add another fortnightly draft pay run at the moment. There's already one there, but we can add a weekly pay run if we click on here and we click on weekly. And those are the employees that are in the weekly pay run. So if we just close out of here, now we can see that we've got a fortnightly and a weekly in draft. So the other thing you can do is you can process unscheduled pay runs, and they're handy if you just need to make an adjustment to, say, one employee You may need to adjust their pay or their leave balance or something like that, so you can just process an unscheduled pay run. So let's just have a quick look inside the fortnightly pay run, and you can see here we've got 3 employees listed. It gives us the totals at the top of the earnings and taxes, etc., that are adding up from here. They're all ticked to be included in the pay run, and there's a few different options down here, such as adding a message. You can delete the pay run if there's some problem with it. You can reset the pay run if you've gone in and tinkered with some of these things and you need to reset it back to its original state because it's incorrect. You can just click that. There's also some reports here. You can look at pay slips. You can look at the journal that's going to be posted to the general ledger accounts, and you can look at the bank payments that are going to be made to each of the employees. And then when you're happy, you can click on the post pay run button here. But before we do that, let's just have a look at one of the employees. So before, when I was showing you the pay template, this is basically the same thing. So this is LeBron James's pay template, and every time we go to post a pay run, his pay template will come up just like this, and then you can go in and you can make changes if you need to. So perhaps LeBron didn't work 76 hours that week and you need to change that. So there's the union fees we saw before, and down here are the superannuation payments we saw before, and here you can see it's also calculated the PAYG tax, and there's no HEX or help on here either. So this just gives you the overview of all of LeBron James's pay for this particular fortnight. So we can go back by just clicking here. We can see all the others. We'll just assume that we're happy with all of them, and then to post the pay run, we just click on post pay run. Yes, we're sure. And it's just telling us that it's been posted successfully. And now you can see we've got this pay run options drop down menu here. So now we can download an ABA file, which is a text file that you can upload straight into your online banking to help you process the pays a lot quicker than going in and manually typing them in. And you can also email pay slips directly from Xero to the staff members, as long as you put email addresses in each of their profiles. And if you've made a big mistake and you need to undo it, you can revert to draft. So once you've clicked on email pay slips, these little buttons here come up green, but I won't do it here because it's the demo company. So if we close out of here, we can now see that that fortnightly pay run that we've just posted has come down into the history, and the only draft we have up here is the weekly one that we added before. But now that we've posted a fortnightly pay run, we can add another one, because you can only have one draft of each calendar at any one time. So just close out of there, and now you can see there's another one there ready for posting, which is 2 weeks after the one that we just posted. So that's an overview of payroll in Xero. Like I said, it's a fairly big and complicated part of Xero. So that was just a brief overview of all the different places that you need to go. So let's finish off now by having a look at the contacts section of Xero. The last thing I want to show you in Xero is the contacts section. So you can see there that there's a contacts item on the main menu. So if we click on that and we go into all contacts, this will bring up a screen where we can manage our contacts. So at the moment we've got it selected to all. So down here all of our contacts are listed down here. If we just want to look at customers, we can click on customers. Same with suppliers. We can also add employees as contacts. There's none added here in the demo company, but we can do that if we like. And then further down here we've got contact groups. So you can create groups to save you some time with invoicing. So if we look at the contractors group, we can see that there's only one in there. But if we go to the support clients group, where there's actually 10 contacts, if we wanted to send the same invoice to each one of these support clients, we can do so by creating an invoice and then sending it to this support clients group. So that's a bit of a time saver there. And then further down, we've got some smart lists. So you can create lists and you can create groups for whatever you like. So for these smart lists, for example, here's a list of all the contacts that have actually purchased an item for us. Or we can create a list for, say, customers that are overdue by 7 days, and there's just the one there. So we'll go back up to the all list here, and we'll have a look inside one of the contacts just to see what's in there. So if we go down to one that looks pretty full of information, say this Bayside Club, and if we go in, we can see there's a lot of information in here. So this is the current situation for the client. There's an invoice awaiting payment, there's a bill awaiting payment, and there's a history down here of the activity of invoices and bills, etc. And then you can see over here on the right, there's a whole bunch of contact details for that particular client, their address and their phone, the name, email address, etc. If you want to edit that, you just go into the edit section, and there's a whole lot of things through here that you need to, you don't need to fill it all out for each client, but you can fill it out. And you can see in the demo company, this one's pretty full. So it's a good example to work off if you want to create your own contacts. So I'll just click save there. And then if we look at this options drop down menu here, you can see that we can send the client a statement. So that would send them a statement for their outstanding invoices. We can add it to a group. We had a bit of a look at the groups before. If you've got a couple of contacts that have different names, so they're saved as different contacts, but they really should be the same contact, you can merge them. And then also you can archive contacts if you're not using them anymore. So you can do those things through that drop down menu, or if you go back to the main contact screen and you click on the contact and just check the checkbox, you can see here that all those options are available here as well, including edit. So that's a few ways that you can manage your contacts. To create the contacts in the first place, there's a few different ways you can do that. You can bulk import them, and if we click on the import button, we can see here that there's an import process. So there's actually an Excel file that you can download that you can put all the information into and then browse and upload it. And it's saying here it should be a CSV file or a text file. Sorry, it's not actually an Excel template, it's a CSV. And then when you hit import, Xero will check it and then import them. So that's a way of bulk importing contacts. If you have a bunch of contacts from some other source, you can also export your current list of contacts if you need to use it somewhere else. And again, you can send statements to contacts, or you can just add contacts individually by clicking on this add contact button, and that will take you to the screen where you fill in all the information. So that's one way of doing it. If we just cancel out of there, another way of doing it that you might find handy is if you're in one of the sections such as the bank reconciliation or invoicing, so you can create contacts that way. So if we go into invoices and we click on new invoice, if we say we want to invoice Officeworks, which is not currently a contact, it'll ask you if you want to add the contact, so you can just add it there. So you can't actually fill out any of the details for the contact on this screen, but you can add it here, and then you can go back into contacts, find it, and you can add the details in afterwards. And similarly, you can do that with bills, and you can also do it when you're reconciling the bank accounts. So if we go in to the bank account with unreconciled items, and let's just say we go and find one, let's say the Cooper Street Bakery. So we'll just use that name here, Cooper Street Bakery, and you can see that it hasn't found a contact called Cooper Street Bakery, so we can add it as a new contact. We can put that to entertainment and just reconcile it. And then if we go back into contacts, all contacts, we should be able to scroll down and find the Cooper Street Bakery. There it is, that we just created. So From here you can go in, you can edit the contact, and you can add in all the extra details that you need for that contact. So that's an overview of contacts in Xero. It's a pretty handy area, and like I said, you can actually create contacts from a bunch of different places. You don't necessarily have to come in here and add contacts individually this way. So that's it for contacts in Xero, and that's also it for our Xero overview. Please now check out our final video to find out what to do next. Thank you for watching our Xero overview video. I hope you learned a bit about what Xero has to offer you and your business. If you would like to learn more about Xero, please check out the links to our Xero courses in the description below. And of course, if you got some value out of this free video, please like it or share it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again, and I hope to see you soon.